Thank you for chatting to me. And I just thought it'd be nice, kind of in the lead up to Father's Day on Sunday, to speak to some male foster carers to get your view, your experiences, and your view on what fostering means to you. So I guess a good place to start. I know we've spoken before, and I know what your fostering household looks like. But maybe if you could just tell us kind of who you foster, who's in your household, and what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. Well, just to give you a little bit of background, we've been fostering now since 2005. And we currently have a little girl of 10 years of age who is a SGO, Special Guardianship Order. She's been with us since the age of 1. She has learning disabilities, and essentially she's our daughter now. We also have a very soon to be 2-year-old who's been with us since she was born. She has gone up for adoption, but what we've decided to do is, because she's been here so long and she also has a number of health issues, we've decided to adopt her.
Oh, lovely. So 2 children that will be with you long term now as part of your family.
Yep.
Forever.
Yep.
And kind of when you first got into fostering, what was the driving force, and who was the driving force, I suppose? Because I find that often, when you've got kind of a couple, a man and a woman couple, it's maybe the woman that kind of, drives it, and that the men maybe sometimes are a bit more reluctant or a bit more anxious about it. So what did it look like for you when you first started?
Well, you're right there, Karen, because my wife's background was care for people with learning disabilities. And when we first moved into this house, she said, in the future, once we've had our own kids, could we possibly look at caring for somebody who needs care, especially at that particular time. There was a lot of move towards care in the community. I've worked in industry all my life, and essentially I just went along with the idea, thinking, it's something in the future. It may never materialise. I'll worry about it when it comes along. So once our 2 birth children were at a certain age, Mandy then brought the subject up again, and I was a little bit sort of reticent, thinking that I'd destabilise the family. It would be too much of an interference. We wouldn't have enough time to dedicate to our own 2 children. And I have to say, I was very wrong, because it's been one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever come across.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. And what that is kind of a common concern as well, is people with their own children at home, what the effect is going to be on the family unit. So how old were your own children when you first started to foster, and how do they feel about it now?
I think they were 6 and 10. They were fine. We discussed it with them at length before we even considered approaching any of the fostering agencies or the local council, until we were satisfied that they were genuinely okay with another child coming into the house. Now the dynamics change so much, it really has. Our eldest is 25, and she literally walks around with Tiny Tot on her back all the time. She's created a dinosaur party for her 2nd birthday. The level that she's gone to, the detail that she's gone to is unbelievable. It really is. She's created sweet bags with dinosaur eggs, and she's printed her own little leaflets, little stickers to go on the bags. And she's just done a tremendous job. Same with our 2nd birth daughter. She's so attached to the child, both children. It's unreal. It really is. They just see both children as the little sisters.
That's lovely. And it sounds like, they've got that kind of sibling relationship with them, but maybe because they came in later, maybe they're a bit more kind of nurturing towards them, I suppose, a bit more protective.
Very much so, yeah. And they help immensely. The input from them is so valuable. It gives my wife and I the opportunity to have a social life, because they'll look after the children. So the whole dynamic of it works with this family.
Yeah, that's great. And what was the turning point for you in terms of kind of coming into fostering and feeling maybe a bit, anxious about what it was going to be like? What was the turning point when you, like you said, it's really rewarding and it's the best thing you've done. So when did you realise that?
That's a good question, because I don't think it was so much a moment of dawning realization, so to speak. I think it was more several realizations along the way when, for example, we had a child that came here that had been physically abused, and the evidence was there to see on a body. To be able to give that child a safe and loving home for a short period of time was such a relief that she wasn't going to be abused again. It was also it was cathartic that you knew she wasn't going to be injured. You knew she was going to be safe. There was no potential for anything serious happening to her. Beyond these four walls in this house, we have no control, but while she was here, and it made me realize that in the 21st century, these horrible, horrible incidents still take place. And again, we've had another child who was brought to us as an emergency a couple of days before Christmas, and I was sent out to do some clothes shopping. A man who can barely clothes shop for himself, a couple of days before Christmas, sent into town to Primark, of all places, where I'd never been before, and asked to get particular things. But again, I achieved a sense of reward from that, because we were doing something for the child, a child that had been removed, again, because the environment was violent and it was toxic. So there's been several reminders along the way, but I couldn't say there was any sort of light bulb moment where I thought, this is wonderful, this is great, I'm glad we've done this. There are so many moments where the reward is tangible, it's palpable.
Yeah, and you obviously can kind of feel and see that you're doing everything in your power to help out in a really bad situation as good as it can be for that child. But,
absolutely. It's worrying, don't get me wrong, it is worrying when you move on, what they're going to move on to, whether they're going back to the parents, etc. But that's outside of our remit. We can worry, but worrying's not going to do us any good.
Yeah. And when you first, is your kind of preferred type of fostering, or was it classed as short term that's become long term, or?
Well, we started off long term, and then we went on to short term because we took our first child as an SGO. So we went on to short term after she'd settled down and her health needs were addressed and stabilised. We took Tiny Tot, who's with us now, on as short term, but she's become long term, and she's become infinitely long term now, or she is becoming.
So you never know which way it's going to take you. What starts out one way ends up, another way.
You really don't, and it's very much down to the family, the type of family, and the family dynamics. Some families might not be able to do that. Some families might be able to do short-term fostering and still get the same rewards out of it and still feel as though they're doing something. It's not hard to love somebody else's children if you're doing it for the right reasons. It really isn't, because, for example, this child that we have now is just 100 miles an hour. She is a whirling dervish, but she's hilarious with it. And she's so loving in herself. She'll climb up, she'll snuggle in, she'll fall asleep with you. And then in a moment, in a heartbeat, she's up and she's 100 miles an hour again. And it really is great.
Recharged.
Absolutely.
And I guess that takes me to kind of a final point about kind of being that kind of male father figure, role model. How has that worked for you in terms of maybe building that bond, developing that relationship, building that trust with the children?
It's difficult when you work, because obviously you're not there for a set period throughout the day. Now, I work shifts, I work continental shifts, and I work 12 hours. So I'm essentially away for 5 days of the week almost, and she'll see me as a snapshot of an evening. Initially, it was I wouldn't say difficult, but there was a period where she didn't really recognize me as a very young child, and obviously I was out at work. I'd come home from work. play with her, make a fuss of her, and she'd like that, but there was the bond was missing. But as she's got that little bit older and she's recognised that I do go out, she understands what the word work means now. That bond's become stronger and stronger. The relationships developed between us, and we just get on like a house on fire. She is my little girl now.
Oh, so would you say you don't kind of approach foster caring or parenting foster children in any different way than you did your own children?
I think that's probably the key to it. I think it really is. I think if you treat the foster children in the same way that you treated your own children, I think that's the recipe for success. I think if you're divisive and you treat them as, I don't want to use the word commodity because it's completely wrong, but if you treat them as something special, that you can't do this and you can't do that, you can't do the other. Our eldest daughter walks around with it basically just slung over her back, slung over her arm, which we used to do with our children when they were very, very small. Yeah. So they picked up on that. They obviously liked that. And now they're doing the same thing with the foster children. Yeah. So, you know, for me, just treat them as part of your family, include them, be all inclusive.
Yeah, and that's what they need, isn't it? Just to be part of a family, you know, feel part of the family.
That's exactly what they need. Yeah, that's exactly what they need.
And I guess a final comment from me, a final question from me would be, obviously now you've got one child on an SGO, which is special guardianship order, one child that you're going to adopt. So what do you see as the future for you and fostering? Do you think you'll carry on fostering?
I need a boy. There's too many women in this house. Honestly, I'm the only male in this house, and with all the girls, even the dog's a girl. I get in my car, turn the sat nav on, it's a girl. I'd like to foster a boy. I'd like us to bring a little boy in and maybe give him the opportunities that the other children have had. Yeah, I think that's what I'd like to do. But we're not exclusive in that way. We, you know, anybody that needs our help, that's the way we view it. We are offered a child and that child needs our help, then we'll take that child irrespective. One of the things that we are painfully aware of is Tiny Tot. We were the third family that were asked to take Tiny Tot in because she has a medical condition. Right. We didn't think twice about that. 2 other families had refused it. 2 other families had missed out on an absolutely fantastic time with that child. Yeah,
and that's probably a confidence thing, isn't it? That, you know, you or Mandy's had that experience previously, and over time you've realised that it's doable. It's not all about the condition. It's about the child.
It's not. No, it's not. It's not at all. The condition, as long as it's well managed and respected, becomes secondary, and that you just bring the child through the way any normal child would be brought through.
Yeah. That's lovely. Lovely to hear. Thank you so much. And
you're very welcome.
Unless there's anything else, I hope the birthday party goes really well tomorrow. And yeah, thanks for sharing your story with us.
That's great.
Fabulous.
Thanks, Karen.
See you soon.
Cheers. Bye now.
Bye.